Hey folks, it's your Auntie Lainie here with The Undercurrent. And last week we had a guest on our show, William Tilford, who came in to talk about what's going on in Venezuela. If you've been following the news, you've probably realized that there have been a few more things happening in Venezuela. So Bill is back on the show for a quick conversation and some updates for us. Bill, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I even dressed up extra special for our rootin' tootin' Botox shooting with the manly man. So,
We appreciate it.
so yeah, we're looking for things to do. So we snagged a boat. And you'll notice we were pretty cagey about who was on it, where it was going, and who did the oil belong to, really. As of this afternoon, and I had to add that caveat because the narrative could change again. Supposedly, we didn't catch oil actually going to Cuba. That was supposedly offloaded on a smaller boat first.
Okay.
But the bigger boat, the skipper, Hugh Gilligan's Island theme here, was headed to Asia. And it wasn't headed to Russia that got all the oil they need. It wasn't headed to Iran that got all the oil they need. So where do you think that would be going if it was really going to Asia? Honest? China. China is very Chinese about
Mm.
how it
Yeah.
complains. It's a cultural thing.
Yes.
So they did publicly complain about piracy generally. And a story that's not hitting the mainstream media yet,
Hmm.
because the implications are pretty chilling. We may have grabbed some military hardware off a boat in the South China Sea that might possibly have been headed toward Iran. But that was a China flagged boat. And of course, Russia wasn't too happy about our grabbing of the tanker either. At any one point in time, there were around 75, 80 tankers in the queue around Caracas. 30-ish of those are now technically sanctioned, including some flagged to Hong Kong. But here's the thing. I see a question.
No, I'm just pursing my lips at the implications.
If we start regularly grabbing oil bound to China, or worse, Hong Kong flagged tankers, and Hong Kong is part of China,
Yeah.
that plus our new national security strategy, which kind of revives spheres of influence, will give China legal cover it feels it needs to start tightening the noose around Taiwan that much more tightly. Not to mention, given that there are 30-ish tankers we've sanctioned in the queue there, even with all the assets we've put into the Caribbean,
Yeah.
we don't really have enough to be jumping up and down on 30 boats.
I would not
So,
imagine so, but we also just have other worries right now.
yeah, so this was more of a let's raise the saber high. Some of my colleagues with better military correct connections than I have were suggesting that the SEALs have been sitting there for a couple of months with nothing to do. Troops are getting fidgety. So in
Mhm.
a way, this was a live exercise as a fringe benefit. Go do something. But my central point from our larger conversation hasn't changed. This is basically rattling the saber to see if it'll make Maduro shake. China, even if we magically did cut off all that oil, that would hurt Venezuela. Yes, but China would just pivot to Russia and buy more oil from there.
And that would further establish their relationship or solidify their relationship.
It would drive them, yeah,
They're
pretty
already
nicely.
tight, but
Now, this gets better. Here's another unintended side effect of what we're doing with Venezuela. In October, Maduro signed, and unlike Trump's executive orders, this did go through Congress first, a strategic agreement with Russia going forward that there would be joint ventures between Rosneft, which is Russia's petroleum giant, Venezuela's petroleum companies. So, sometime between now and next year, as oil starts leaving Venezuela's largest oil fields, It's going to be jointly branded in joint ventures between Russia and China. So technically, we're squeezing Russia and China at the same time.
Okay.
And I'll continue with one more point. I know time
Sure.
is short.
No, yeah.
Russia has been working on a digital ruble. Our sanctions, when applied to Russia and anyone else, are based on choking off their access to a system called SWIFT,
Okay.
which is an international exchange system. Russia and China have both been looking for ways to bypass them. Russia was going to roll out a digital ruble this summer. It got a little delayed. It's still being planned for late next year as a way to bypass SWIFT. Guess what's written into that strategic agreement that I mentioned? Venezuela will have access to the digital ruble.
All right.
So you can guess where the effect of our sanctions starts to go from there. Not to mention, we've already sanctioned them so tightly that what do you tighten up on now?
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's like squeezing a grapefruit for the fourth time. The law of diminishing returns kicks in.
Let me ask you one thing. I'm just wondering about this. Again, we have saber rattling, we have grapefruits being squeezed. What do you think the risks are of this particular predicament? And I'm using that term because this is just, to me, it's a predicament that the possible risk of something going very awry and seeing a more serious violent conflict. Do you think that's possible here, or is it just the saber rattling and the threat?
We seem to be inching up to it as slowly as possible, whatever it turns out to be. For example, you may have seen in the news that we had nasty fighters, according to some news sources, flying over Venezuela. Actually, it was flying over the Gulf of Venezuela.
Okay.
Some of Venezuela claims this is airspace, but it was still over the water. They weren't actually going overland. And the reason they weren't going overland is Venezuela already has literally 5,000 Russian surface to air missiles on the ground there. None of them are nuclear.
Okay.
If you fly 3 or 4 planes over Venezuelan airspace on the land, then the Venezuelans have a decision. Do we shoot them down, which they can do, in
Mhm.
which case, yeah, we've got a conflict,
Mhm.
or do we let a couple of them fly over and see if they'll raise us another 10 or 20? The number of troops we have that are ground troops that are deployed in theater right now, while it sounds like a big number to people that don't study these things, it's actually the size of what's called a stabilization force. It's what you send in after you won.
Okay.
It's not what you go in and conquer everything with. There's always a chance something could go wrong, especially since Mr. Kegseth wants to blow something up. And likewise, it's possible on the Venezuelan side. The saving grace is that there are a lot of Russian advisors on the ground as well.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Here's another deterrent for us bombing Venezuela with purpose. Once these joint ventures are underway, if we say bomb Venezuelan oil fields, that's pretty good. We'll be killing Russian corporate employees in the bargain.
Yeah.
And I'm always willing to never underestimate the stupidity of our current executive branch, but I think there is still some reasonably sane minds in there saying, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
So I'll put down 2 different bets. The odds of our deliberately doing something that turns into a major conflict, probably less than 10%. The odds of somebody inadvertently starting something, maybe more of 30 or 40.
That's the last guess or bet is the one that scares me
Yeah, sure.
the most. It really does. And yeah. So any case, I do appreciate you coming in to help with this and to provide a little bit more clarity for our viewers and listeners. It's really appreciated. And as always, do not wait for an invitation. If something comes up and you'd like to share it with our audience, please let us know and we'll be glad to have you back on.
Always delighted.